from the BBC World Service in association with ABC and All India Radio. This is Stumped.
Hello, I'm Alison Mitchell and welcome to the penultimate Stumped of 2021, a year in which cricket started to get back to normal after the COVID-19 pandemic. The inaugural 100 competition was launched, Australia won the Men's T20 World Cup, and Pakistan's men beat India in a World Cup match for the first time ever. Now, throughout the year, we've tried to keep you entertained and informed with our weekly mix of news, features and debate from the quirky world of cricket. And so this week, we're going to take the chance to look back on some of our highlights from the show this year. I think it's only right that we start with one of the brightest stars of India women's cricket. Jemimah Rodrigues is an Indian all-rounder and has dominated with the bat in franchise cricket, where she hit the highest individual score in the 100 with an unbeaten 92 for the Northern Superchargers. She was also part of the India squad who were beaten by Australia in that record-breaking 2020 T20 World Cup final. And she joined us on Stumped in May to tell us about her experience of playing in front of over 85,000 fans at the MCG.
We were practicing on the main ground. So our nets were outside, but we came inside to do some fielding. And that time our coach was Raman sir. So he came up, we were in a huddle and he spoke to us. He said, if I could, ever want to be in a historic moment, it would be tomorrow playing at the MCG in front of 90,000 people. So he said, whatever's going to happen tomorrow, I just want all of y'all to enjoy and cherish this moment, because you'll never get this moment ever again to, kind of relive it. So that was how we had the mindset to go in. And I remember, just walking in, we were fielding first, and my parents had come. They traveled all the way, from India to watch, and the stadium was fully packed. It was fully packed. And it was very difficult for me. I was fielding at deep mid wicket. It was very difficult for me to side the ball because we're not used to playing in front of so much crowd. And the whole stadium was packed, but after that we just got used to that. And I remember I looked before the match would start. I looked around if I could see my dad or my mom. I normally do that. Then I'm like, Hari, how will I see them in front of so much crowd? But then I looked back and I saw there's a small window and there are 4 people doing like that. It was very funny. And then, I saw my mom and dad there. So, but when I looked back over there and I saw them there, I knew that, no matter what happens today, I mean, these guys are always going to be right behind me, backing me. So, that, and with their support, also, it wasn't the easy time for me, actually, even for my teammates, after the game, we all were heartbroken. We were trying to play it cool, okay, nothing has happened, because we are a very young side. And our seniors also, Smriti is 24, and she had to kind of maintain that composure. So, but then we could make out, everyone's trying to play it cool, but inside everyone's heart is broken. But that day we decided, we're going to learn from this. And this team itself, it has so much promise that the day is not far where it's going to win a World Cup for India. So, and make India proud. So, yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned your dad, because I've read you describe him as your hero before. Tell us, a little bit more about the impact that your dad has had personally on your cricket career.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just my dad. Actually, I would even tell my mom, because she'll be bad. She'll feel bad if she's watching this video, because she always tells me to talk about role, Dad. Actually. You never talk about me. Yeah, I am the one behind the scenes. So, Mom, shout out to you also. So, I started off, as I said, at a very young age, and went to go for practices, being a girl, just going and practicing. And at that time in India, a girl playing cricket was not very, accepted, I would say. So I had gone with my brother to one academy, and then they said, no, I'm sorry, she's too small and she's a girl, so we won't be able to take her. So I felt very bad at that moment. And my dad was there. My dad was like, don't worry, Jem, we'd work harder, we'd fight it out. So it was from that time, where my dad has only been my coach in coaching my brothers. And the best thing about my dad being my coach is, even at that time, he never stopped me from playing cricket, being a girl. Because, now times are different, some people won't be able to relate to this, but when I started, it was very different. And even relatives came home and they were like, I think you all have lost it. How can you allow your girl to play cricket? But they never stopped us from playing cricket. So, and after that, my dad has worked a lot on me. Sometimes it was quite annoying because I couldn't enjoy my holidays and picnics and everything with the family. I had to go and practice cricket at Shivaji Park or Azad Maidan and all that. So Yeah, it's been that. But if it wasn't for his persistency and the way he was determined that okay, it was his dream to play cricket, but he could never play because his parents never supported him. But he was like, no, nothing doing. I'm going to make sure my children play. But he expected his two sons to play, but I became the one who actually ended up playing for India. So yeah.
I think you made the India under-19s when you were only 13, and I think you started playing for India, when you were 16. So were you ready for the kind of pressures that playing for India bring on? Or would you have preferred perhaps making a debut a little later? How ready were you that early?
Honestly, I felt that I should have played for India 2 years before.
Yes, because, I like that attitude.
No, the thing was that I had performed in the domestic games in almost every game except the three most important games, which were the two challengers games, which is like India A, India B, India C. From there, you get selected for the India team. So in those two games, I got out on 0 and 1.
Oh.
So I didn't do well. I was averaging in under 19s. I was averaging 376. But then I heard that the selector said that she's not scoring against a big team. So what's the use? So I was very frustrated and kind of annoyed with me that okay, I've worked so hard, I've scored so much, but when it mattered the most, I didn't. So that actually changed a lot. I worked harder, developed new shots. Then again, the next season came, and I had a double century in a 50-over game, and also 1,013 runs in 11 games. And everything was set. Then the challengers came. Long story short, challengers. So there was a lot of pressure because the past was playing in my mind, but then just to overcome that and be the third highest run scorer, even in the challengers. And then that's how I made my selection for India. So I would say everything fell at the right time. I mean, if I would have got selected 2 years earlier, where I thought it was a perfect timing for me, I don't think I would have made such an impact as 2 years later when I had to work harder, develop my game. And, I learned so much more in those 2 years. So I think God's timing is perfect and it just fell in the right place.
Tell us a little bit about your social media, because you're a bit of a dab hand in front of the microphone, aren't you? And you've interviewed a lot of personalities on your own social media channel. Who have been some of the favourites?
Few of my favourites first would definitely be Rohit Sharma, because I love his batting. Interviewed AB de Villiers and Faf du Plessis. So yeah, they will be few of my favorites, and then there's Mayank Agarwal also. So yeah, I mean there are quite many, but yeah, it's always fun, catching up with these guys and talking about continuing this as my career. I think I'm just 20. I'll leave that for later.
Yeah, to be fair, I don't think you need to be thinking about post cricket just yet. You've got an awful lot of cricket in front of you first. Well, that was India all-rounder Jemimah Rodrigues. And of course, we'll keep you up to date with how the India women's team get on in 2022, including the ODI World Cup in New Zealand. Speaking of World Cups, it was the Australian men who were victorious in the T20 World Cup in the UAE this year in November. But it was the India men who hit the headlines after losing their first two matches. Well, here on Stumped, Chari Sharma, Jim Maxwell and I awarded our own metaphorical T20 World Cup awards to look back on the tournament. And I started by asking Chari what his biggest surprise was.
The fact that this mighty Indian team did not take a single Pakistani wicket was just a massive surprise. I mean, the whole country just kind of melted right there, and nobody could get up after that, because I mean, it's one thing to lose to Pakistan, which never had in an ICC World Cup event. And then, of course, you might have lost narrowly, you might have taken a few wickets, but not to take a single wicket was just an enormous slap in the face and a huge surprise.
I could have said that one. I thought I'd leave that one to you.
Thank you.
Jim?
Well, it's a package here of surprise and disappointment. I mean, in India, huge surprise about their inordinary performance at the start, and they didn't recover, really. By the time they started winning, it was too late. So I don't know whether they were ego blown or what in that Indian team, but their supporters must have been asking a lot of questions. The other surprise, sorry, just quietly, for a country that's barely got any cricket at all, Namibia's performance in just playing that World Cup was just outstanding, just unbelievable.
What about best player of the tournament? I mean, there were obviously leading wicket takers, leading run scorers, a player of the tournament in David Warner as well. So who would your picks be, Jim, if I start with you?
Oh, well, I'm going to have a bit of a green and gold eye here, but the performances of Warner and Zampa in particular. But in crunch games, Josh Hazlewood is really making a point in the last couple of years. Remember, this guy was discarded as a white ball cricketer. And 3 for 16 in the final.
Line and length.
Huge difference, particularly when his mate at the other end was none for 60, Mitchell Starc. So Hazlewood's one of my favourite cricketers because of what he very quietly, undemonstratively contributes to the team.
Well, I've got to say that, normally we talk about Pakistan in terms of being a mercurial team. Which side of the bed did they get up from, and so on and so forth. But for them to be held together by, I suppose, the leadership first of Babar Azam and his consistency with the bat. He just looked so fluent, so fabulous every time. And that's what made them the favourites later on in the tournament. So for me, it would have to be Babar Azam because of what he brought to Pakistan. And of course, his fabulous batting, which has propelled him to be world number one again, if I'm not wrong.
My number one pick is actually same as yours, Charo. I was going to go for Babar Azam. Four half centuries, the consistency, the leadership, that's that sparkling opening stand with Rizwan that just lit the tournament in the game against India. So yeah, I'm going with Babar Azam as well. What about a standout moment to end with? Is it the lifting of the trophy? Is it a particular wicket, a six, a catch?
Well, I'll go first on this. I think it was what Wade did to Shaheen Shah Afridi. Just left the whole world shell-shocked, left Pakistan shell-shocked because they may have gone on to lose, but the way they lost, and there was a team that was fabulous on momentum, but 3 balls changed the whole game for Pakistan, and it was just 3 fabulous shots. So that moment, still remains in my brain.
Can I share that with you as well? Or is that oversharing? We're just on the same wavelength. Go on, Jim, what's yours?
Well, that's certainly one of them. But if you want just one moment of the tournament, it was the first ball Marsh faced, and he hit Milne into the stand for 6. And that was if there's a game changer in the momentum of a match, even though Australia was moving along quite well at the time, that was a big one because of the execution of the batting, the shot selection, running between the wickets. That was as close to the most perfect partnership you'd see in the crunch in a game of cricket. But it was triggered by Marsh hitting the first ball he faced way into the crowd. Yeah, that was the moment, I think.
I did enjoy the send-off that was given to Dwayne Bravo and kind of a send-off to Chris Gale. But, a player retiring and, you saw the Guard of Honour. Those things always, do leave me quite a little bit moved, watching players say goodbye and sign off, and particularly someone who's just been on the scene for so long and so many years. Finally, on Stumped, we're going to hear what was one of my favourite interviews of the year, which really does embody the quirky world of cricket. In 1994, a well-known chocolate brand created an advert in India which would become iconic. It saw a woman sitting on the sidelines of a cricket match, watching her male friend score a winning boundary and then running onto the outfield, dancing with delight. Now, fast forward to 2021, and the advert was reimagined by switching the gender roles. Chennai-based educator, swimmer and actor Kavya Ramachandran played the female cricketer in the 2021 version, and she told us how she felt when she saw herself in the advert for the first time.
I think there was a lot more emotions post when the advert came out. I felt a lot more then as opposed to when I was shooting for it, because this is what I say always. I did not realize the impact that the ad in 94 created, because that was the year I was born and I hadn't seen the ad. I remember vaguely the jingle, but I had no idea the stir that the ad had created back then. So right now, I just feel super grateful that I could play a small part on a production like this.
So I've very broadly described the advert. Describe it in more detail, how it plays out.
I'm sure you've all seen the original. It's a super cute dance number that Shimona does, and which is unmatched. I thought it was really refreshing when they asked me to send the audition. I thought it was really refreshing, the gender swap, because sport is something that's super close to my heart, and women getting cheered on in the field of sport is even closer. And the fact that I got to play the cricketer was the biggest highlight in my life. And so many emotions going through right now, actually, this very instant I'm talking to you all. What do I say? I realized the impact of the ad only when I went on set, because everyone was saying, Kavya, we're not trying to recreate the same thing. You can't do that because that's a classic. It's treated as an ode to honor the classic. And I thought that was important, because the pressure to recreate something that was as big as that would have been too much if we are trying to, one-up it, because that was never the intention.
And do you yourself, Kavya, sort of feel quite strongly about challenging gender norms, those sort of traditional male-female roles in society and in Indian society in particular?
Of course, I feel very strongly, because I do come from a sport background. I'm a swimmer myself. So not my immediate family, but there are a lot of people who aren't very supportive of girl in, pursuing sport. And when I used to swim competitively, there used to be a lot of people who would come up to my parents and say, why are you sending her for sport? She's going to become masculine and manly, and she's going to tan and all of that, which is unnecessary, because they don't see what goes behind it, or the accolades that come with it, or the struggle that comes with it. So especially because of that experience in my life, I do feel very, very strongly about gender norms and breaking the stereotypes. And so to answer your question, yes, it's very, very strong, yes.
Well, that is it for the Best of Stumped for 2021. A huge thanks to all of you for keeping us company throughout the year here on All India Radio and on BBC World Service YouTube as well. You can follow us, don't forget, on Twitter. We're at BBCWS Sport. Use the hashtag BBC Stumped. But from me and the rest of the Stumped team, it's goodbye.
From the BBC World Service in association with ABC and All India Radio, this is Stumped.